Now, it's time to answer the age-old question of how much has this van conversion cost me so far? Welcome back to Hudson's Autohuas, and in today's video we're going to be working out the total cost it's taken me to get up to this point for my van conversion. So I feel that the van at the moment is nearly complete from a camper point of view. I've had a few weekends away in it and a week in Morzine, and there's not much which I really want to change so far with the van. I'm liking how it works, I'm liking the whole setup which we've got, so I thought it'd be a great time just to go through the van conversion so far and go through how much I've spent to get to this point. I'll also go into a few things where if I was to do this again, there's a few things which I've done along the way which I think I'd change. So first, a little bit about the van. The van which I've been converting over the last 18 months is a 2020 VW Transporter T6.1. It started life out as a bog standard panel van which had been used for all range of things, as it was full of loads of rubble and rubbish in the back. Since the first video which I released in February 2023, I've done loads of work to the van to get it up to this point. That's including a full strip out, full insulation and carpet everywhere, building the slide out, pull out bed, the kitchen, the garage section, all the electrics, and just general bits of tidying up just to make it a nice camper to be in. I will give you a full in-depth build once it's done, but for the meantime, let's just go through the cost. So for the costing, I've noted down everything I've bought and done to the van on the laptop. I've got a cost for it all, and I'll go through it all. I'll be including everything from buying the van to everything which has been fitted and custom made to the van, and explaining it all throughout the video. I apologise because I will look down at the laptop a lot. I just want to make sure I'm getting all the pricing and costing right and make sure it's very, very accurate for you all. As a side note, I'll not be including the cost of tools or screws, as I have lots of tools already, so I haven't really had to buy loads for the conversion, and I've used a countless number of screws and fixings, so that's just never going to be able to be counted. But first up, let's talk about the van. So this fine lump of German steel is a 2020 VW Transporter T6.1. It's got a mighty 110 brake horsepower from a 2-litre 4-cylinder diesel engine, and it can at least reach the speed limit but cannot do much more than that. In fairness, that's not really what it's designed to do. It's a short wheelbase van, and that is the first thing that I would change. If I was to do this again, I think I'd get a long wheelbase van, just because I think that extra 400mm of the wheelbase will make it much easier to fit a bed like this in, and mean that I won't have to push this seat forward slightly for when I want to sleep. But on the contrary, the fact that this is my daily driving van, it means that a longer wheelbase would make it harder to park and manoeuvre, so a short wheelbase does have its pros. So the cost of the van. When I bought it, it was only 2.5 years old, and it had only covered 26,000 miles, so that's pretty much brand new for a van. I wanted to get one which was new, just due to the fact that it will be my daily driver. I was selling my old Mini to get this, so I wanted to make sure I was getting a van which would be reliable and had all the additional features like Apple CarPlay and a nice interior to be in. As you'll see later in the video, reliable is taken with a pinch of salt. So the cost of the van altogether was very high, and it came to £26,000. But for a pretty much brand new VW Transporter, I think I got a good steal on it. The van was very clean on the outside. There was no major dents or scratches. The paintwork definitely does need some TLC, but all cars are like that when they've done a few miles. The main bit was there was no dents or scratches, and nowhere had to be repainted, and there was no signs of rust anywhere. So that's the van done. Let's look at the work which has been done to the exterior of this van. Apart from the suspension, which I'm going to cover in a different section, not loads has been done to the exterior of the van, but that's all going to change very soon. So I fitted new badges to the van. I went for matte black badges first, decided I didn't like them because I was going to keep it as a commercial spec, so then got brand new chrome badges to replace them. I've fitted all the graphics to the side, so these are all the Hudson's Autohuas branding. I've fitted the roll hard stickers and then a few other stickers of parts from companies which I've used along the way. I also added window deflectors and then the sliding windows, which were the biggest changes of all for the outside of the van. That made it look like a completely different van because it made it look less like a panel van and more like a camper van. The total for all this cost came to £588.83. So the main focus now, after the camper section's done, is the outside of the van. I'm going to put lots of work into the outside to try and improve it. So that's what you'll see over the next few videos. What I'm wanting to do for the outside of the van is mainly a tailgate conversion, and LED headlights and tail lights. I'd also love to get some new wheels and then retrofit fog lights to the van, as I think that'll really complete the front end. I am going to keep it a commercial spec van at the minute because I really like how that looks with a low commercial van on steel wheels, but that may change in the future, so we will see. So the other big change to the exterior is a suspension fitted to the van. The suspension which I fitted from the previous videos was Bilstein Solo coilovers, and they've been absolutely amazing. I've done about 3,000 or 4,000 miles on them now since installing them, and they've been faultless, and I've loved every minute with them. But as they are Bilstein and as they are supposed to be the best, they do come with a higher price tag. And along with the coilovers, I had to fit longer drop links to accommodate the drop in ride height. So the total for the coilovers and the drop links came to £1,378.95. I'm pretty happy with the suspension and handling. There's not much more I'm going to do to this. I've toyed with the idea of fitting anti-roll bars and then doing machine top mounts and rear adjusted deletes, but I'll only do the anti-roll bars if I feel like it's a bit swayy in the corners and it feels fine. There's very little body roll, and the machine top mounts and rear adjusted deletes will be decided when I've got wheels, if I feel it needs to go a bit lower to fit the wheels better, or if it's okay at the height it's at. So we've now covered the exterior, the van itself and suspension and handling. Let's move on to the cabin. This is another area where not a lot of changes have been made to the van, but I still have lots of plans for it for the future, as you'll see in up and coming videos. Only thing I've done to the cabin is fit some stitches and steel seat covers and upgraded all the dash seals and all the door seals, just so it's nice and quiet when sleeping in the van and just makes it a little bit more premium feeling in the cabin. Due to not much being done, the changes have only came to £63.37. So I think the cabin could be where the greatest number of changes you'll notice over the next few videos, because I've got loads of plans for what I want to do with it. First, I want to take all the headlining off, sound deaden underneath all the headlining, and then black it all out, make it feel a bit more premium in the front. Then want to sound deaden behind all the door cards. I want to take out the seats and fit swivel seats, as well as convert the double seat to a single passenger seat. And I also want to get some custom made seats, which I think are going to look amazing. I'm also going to get the steering wheel retrimmed to match the seats, which will tie into something else in the van, so you'll have to wait and see that. Right, next up, wheels, tyres and brakes. So I've had to put new tyres on the van, obviously, but that's just regular spending. It comes with owning cars and vans, so I'm not going to include that. But I have fitted performance brake pads to the van just to help with the added weight. Just makes it feel a bit better under braking, gives it a bit more power. So I fitted those and they were £117.52. Got lots of plans for wheels, tyres and brakes coming up. I'm going to fit drilled discs all round, just for a bit more braking power, and mainly because I really like how drilled discs look. I'm also going to get new wheels for the van, which I'm so excited to show you. I think these wheels are going to look amazing. I've not seen many vans on them, so I think it is really going to look good, and it's going to be something quite different, which I think will be amazing. Let me know down in the comments below what wheels you think I'm going to go for this van. But yeah, that's about it with wheels, tyres and brakes. I've not got much more I want to do with the brakes. I might paint the calipers at some point, but we'll see if we get to that. So now let's get on to the bit you've probably been waiting for, which is the cost to turn this van into a camper. All the other stuff I've spoke about can be done to a van, whether it's a camper or not. This is all now more camper specific stuff. First section of most traditional camper van builds is stripping all the van out, insulating it and carpeting it. So this is what I'll go through first. So I started off by fitting Dodo mat sound deadening all over the van, lined it with a thermo liner from Dodo mat, and I filled all the cavities in the van with plastic bottle insulation just to really try and keep the warmth in the winter. All the panels were then lined with carpet and then held back with hidden trim clips so it makes it look super clean. All this came to £636.13. And this section of the van is all done. There's nothing else I'm going to do. There is one bit though, which if I was to do this again, I would have changed, and that is where I carpeted up to. As you'll see in the previous videos, I built a fake bulkhead partway down the van to separate the garage and the living section. I'd keep the fake bulkhead because I really like how that works and I like the separation, but I do wish I'd carpeted into the garage and carpeted all the walls and the back doors in the garage, just because I think that makes the van feel a bit nicer on the inside, because when you open it from the back it does still just feel like a panel van with a bit of wood bolted together inside of it. This stuff can all be done in the future if I fancy ever ripping it all out and redoing it, changing it up. You know, if lifestyle circumstances change and I want to change the van up a bit, I can carpet it at a later date. For the minute, I love how it's working, so I'm going to leave it as it is. And talking of the garage section, let's move on to that bit. So this section is also all done. There's nothing I'm going to add to this section. I love how the garage is working. It fits 2 bikes comfortably. I've got my jet wash there to jet wash it away. And this cost in here is going to include all the wood used to make this garage section, the bike holders for the mountain bikes, and then the jet wash as well. Cost of all that is less than what I thought it was going to be. It came to £360.78. Obviously the highest cost in there was the jet wash, and then the rest of it was wood. When buying the wood, I did use the B&Q discounted bits of wood, so ones which might have a bit of damage, because that didn't really matter to me, because most of the time I cut the damaged sections off and I still got a good piece of wood for cheaper than what you'd pay for it normally. I know looking at the garage, it could have been done a lot neater, but this was my first time doing it. I was trying a few things, and my main priority was making somewhere to store the bikes. I didn't really care too much about it, what it looked like. I wanted the purpose and the function over the form. If I was to do it again, I probably would make it look a little bit neater. I'd use nicer bits of wood, maybe the black hardware and ply, but for the meantime it works perfectly as it is. I still think it looks quite good, so I'm super happy with how this has all turned out. So for the section which I'm sat in, the living and sleeping section, so I'm not including the kitchen in this. I'm going to do those as 2 separate areas, but for this is including the curtains behind me on the sliding windows and the ones on the barn door. It's also going to include all the material for the upholstery and then all the wood to make the bed which I'm sat on. I did get the mattress given to me, so I've not included that in here. And then the total cost for all of this came to £501.68. Just like the garage section, I feel it probably could have been done to a higher standard, but as I said, this was my first time doing it, so I'm quite happy with how it turned out as a first time. If I was to do it again, I'd look at maybe getting the panels for the bed CNC cut, just so it looks a bit neater and more put together. But I am happy with how this has turned out, and I'm not planning on changing it anytime soon because it works great for what we use the van for. So the most recent job which was completed on the van was the kitchen. This took quite a bit of planning, but overall I'm very happy with how this has turned out. The cost is including the fridge and the hob, all the wood to make the kitchen shelving unit, the base unit and the pull-out drawer, all the paint and all the door knobs and hinges, and the total for this section came to £558.33. Obviously the big costs in that were the fridge and the hob drawer, but I think it's a pretty good cost for the kitchen which I've built. The only one thing which I want to do to improve this kitchen more is get one of the Avano spin out tables which I can fit to the B pillar, and then it'll just give me more space for cutting and chopping when camping, and then also when we have the swivel seats fitted, it will allow us to sit in the front and use it to play games and work on when I'm in the van. And now the final main section of this camper, probably the section which people are most worried about, thinking that it's going to be hard to do or that it's going to be very expensive, and that is the electrics for the van. So this is including the battery, the DC to DC charger, the solar panel we've just mounted on the roof, all the lighting, all the wiring, all the terminals and all the fixtures, and that came to £852.52. So the main expense was of course the battery, solar panel and DC to DC charger. The rest of it is quite cost effective really. The only thing which I've thought about doing further to this is fit an electrical hookup with an inverter, but that's going to be a bit down the line because the campsites we're using at the minute don't have hookup, or we're going to park ups where there's no facilities at all. So for the meantime, this 12 volt system is working really well. It just charges the laptop slightly slowly, so that's the only reason I'd go for an inverter. And finally, engine services and maintenance. So I said I was going to buy a reliable van, and for most of the time it has, but I did have an oil leak on the van due to the injector seals failing, and that cost £300 to sort those. I've obviously had it MOT'd and serviced whenever it's needed it. I'm not going to include that because that just comes with cars normally, so just £300 for the injector seals, as that was an unexpected cost which I had to get sorted. And that is everything. That's the full breakdown of the cost of the van. So you're probably wondering what the total is. So it all came to £31,357.74. And honestly, I was surprised when I saw that. I didn't think it came to that much, but I still feel I've got a lot of van for the money, especially the age which I bought the van on, and then everything which I've got. It works as an off-grid camper. I stayed in it in Morzine for a week. It's made bike race weekends so much more enjoyable because I'm able to take the bikes up, sleep in the van and not have to carry loads of kit around because I've got all the kit in the van with me most of the time. And I think it could have been a lot more because I've built the van mainly myself, working on it whenever I can and not getting any help with it. I think that's brought down the cost massively. But I want to hear what you think. Let me know down in the comments. Do you think it's an expensive amount? I know that the van was very expensive, but for what I've got, do you think it was a stupid amount of money, or do you think that that is quite a reasonable cost for this sort of van? I also want to hear from you all. What do you want to see in the up and coming videos? What would you like to see get done to this van? So I've already got a few videos in the pipeline. I'm sure you will enjoy them all, so make sure to subscribe just to catch up with all of these videos. Also, please don't forget to like the video. It'll make a massive help. And if you haven't already, please go out and check my other videos in my mountain bike camper build series, where you can see detailed videos on all the work which I've spoke about in this. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.